the masses. The arts are alive in Massachusetts, and I'm the lucky guy who gets to bring them to you. So today we're talking with some people from Acting Out Theater Company in Lawrence, Massachusetts. They're located in a really cool building, and this nonprofit theater was founded by Linda Schoonmaker about 20 years ago, and they produce amazing programming all year long. I'm talking about musicals, original plays, improv classes, classes for kids, even the occasional drag show. There's something for everyone at this theater. And the next show that they have coming up is the musical A Year with Frog and Toad. It's based off of the children's book series by Arnold Lobel. And it's going to be running February 17th through 19th, only a few days where you can check out these performances. And for those of you who don't know this show, we're going to dive into it a little bit more, but I think it is perfect family fare, the perfect show to bring a young audience member to the theater for the first time, but it's not a show that's just for kids. Adults are going to enjoy this show as well. It is absolutely charming, one of my favorite musicals. And I'd like to welcome some of the team here to the show. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yeah, on the right, we have our music director, Eleanor Clark. Welcome. Center, we have Christian Cornelio. Yes, who is playing the awesome role of Frog, decked out in green today. And then, of course, we have a lovely actress, Maeve Kennedy, who's playing young Frog in the show, amongst some other roles. So welcome all. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Of course.
So I know some of you have been involved with Acting Out before and doing other shows here. I know these two, on the actors, are diehards at Acting Out. Christian, tell me about how you got involved with Acting Out, what sort of community it is, and maybe what your favorite show is that you've done.
So I was doing Hairspray with Linda at North Andover High because I got invited to do that show. And then I got invited then to do a chorus line at Acting Out. And I was like, okay, because I saw auditions for that show prior, but I was like, oh, like maybe I wouldn't get in and stuff like that. And then right after chorus line, I've done just every show I could possibly get my hands on at Acting Out.
Right.
Because it's a community where it's just a big family.
Sure.
And Acting Out like welcomes everyone with open arms. And you just feel very comfortable there. And it's a safe space for anybody.
It's a diverse space. We have lots of different people and abilities and ethnicities. It feels really welcoming every time I've been to see a show there. What's the last show that you did there? You just finished up Spring Awakening, right?
Yes.
Who did you play in that?
So the show was double cast. So on my on night, I played Hanshin. And then on my off night, I played the adult man. So that's like 7 different roles in one.
Wow.
That took me a while to learn.
Yeah.
But it was fulfilling. That show, I think, is one of the best shows I think I've ever done in my career because of the people that were involved, the time that we took with it. I choreographed that show, so it was rewarding for myself to be recognized for something else and, you know, all the hard work that not only I put in, but also the cast. And like everyone on the show was great.
Right. I love when a community theater keeps the community involved in the theater. And maybe, Maeve, you can tell us a little bit about how much you love this community at Acting Out.
Yes, I really do love Acting Out. I do every show I possibly can. I really
shout out
do.
to your mother for driving you back and forth endlessly. How many times a week do you think you're at Acting Out?
Oh, God. I mean, like, there are times that I'm in like 5+ shows at once. So that happened like over the summer, I think, or like in the fall. And yeah, during the fall, I think I was probably there like at least 3 times a week.
And even if you're not in the show, I see you handing out programs and
Oh, yeah.
playbills. I see you.
Any show there that's with adults or anyone that I can't be in or I'm not eligible to be in, I am helping out some way or form. Whether I am being an awesome cheerleader in the audience, going to every single show, or I'm helping with concessions, or I'm handing out programs, I'm always involved.
And Acting Out gave you a really wonderful opportunity to have a play that you wrote, an original piece, be produced on stage with actors. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so in 2021, October of 2021, we had this event called One Acts, and we do that every year, where different people can submit different plays that they wrote or someone else wrote that they would like to direct. and it happened to be that Linda needed an extra piece, and I had happened to be in a summer program over summer where we wrote little plays, and that's a long story, but I volunteered to give mine a shot, and she loved my piece, and we took it and we ran with it, and we did some minor edits, and we made a show out of it.
And I got to see it. It was a lot of fun. And that whole evening was so much fun. It's amazing that they do this every year because it was all different original works. And to have that creativity from this local community is really incredible. But we got to switch gears here. We're talking about A Year with Frog and Toad. And Christian, can you just give me in a nutshell what this is about? We know it's based on a children's story, but what happens in the musical?
Well, it's a collection of different vignettes. So you see, I guess, the highs and lows of this friendship between a frog and a toad. And you just get to spend the year with them for a nice, hour and a half, maybe a little bit longer. And you just get to see like this connection, established connection. And you just get to see how much love they have for each other, how much trust, and just each of them kind of pushing each other to do different things.
Sure. Now, I can vouch that this is not just a children's show. I think this is a great show for all ages. Do you agree with me or not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? What do you think the appeal is there? Why do you think this show is able to transcend generations?
I think because of some of the themes within the show. I feel, because since it is a children's show, I feel like there is small things where an adult can be like, oh wow. Like for example, for Alone, like that song is about, being okay with, being alone by yourself and not always with someone else. And I feel that's something that adults can really, take in and think about than like a little kid would. And
I'm thinking about it now. I'm thinking, how often am I actually alone? And I mean, now we have cell phones with us all the time, and we're trying to connect and stay connected. But you sing about just the joy and simple idea of being alone. It's really a heartfelt, beautiful moment in the show. Yeah. I'd like to talk to you, Eleanor, about musically directing the show. Now, if you listen to the cast album, it is so much fun. We have jazz influences. We have regular, old school Broadway musical theater songs. And on a listen, it just sounds like a fun romp. But it's a little bit more complicated on the page, isn't it?
It definitely is. There's quite a few challenges in the score, but I am excited for this opportunity and just being a part of Acting Out and the wonderful people here.
It's your first time at
Acting Out?
Acting Out.
It's my first time. This is my debut with Acting Out, and Christian was absolutely correct in that everyone there is very welcoming and makes you feel at home like your family, and there hasn't been a moment since I stepped on set that I felt like I wasn't appreciated or wasn't welcome there, which is a great feeling, especially since I'm not from the area.
Well, tell me a little bit more about your history in music directing and as a performer and musician.
Acting has always been very close to my heart. I grew up with a father who acted and things of that sort, so I've been around theater a lot.
It's in your blood.
It's in my blood. I'd like to get back on stage, maybe with these wonderful people at some point in the future, but
hopefully they don't. They're going to pigeonhole you into music directing. If they like you, if you find a good music director, you're stuck. No, they'll find opportunities.
They'll find someone. I did not begin my music with theater until I was late teens, probably.
Sure.
But my introduction was with the Fantastics, where I was the accompanist for a small community theater in my hometown that I love called the Westmoreland Players.
Where's that?
It's in Callio, Virginia.
Okay. And you were accompanying the Fantastics
I was accompanying
as your first musical theater
as my first
gig?
musical theater gig.
For those of you who don't know the Fantastics, that is a bare bones pit. It's two people.
It's me. It was myself and a percussionist.
And a
that
percussionist.
was the entire music, 2 hours straight.
And it's gorgeous music. Give it a listen if you haven't. It's one of those shows that really gets me.
Remember September?
Try to remember.
Try to remember that one.
Back to Frog and
Sorry.
Toad. We could talk about Fantastics another time.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite song in the show or a favorite piece of music?
A favorite piece of music, that's complicated because I have different favorites for different reasons.
Sure.
So I adore I'm Coming Out of My Shell, sung by Snail. and that one is
And just look at the lyric there. I'm coming out of my shell. Could it be a better lyric for a snail to sing? And it's a showstopper.
Yes,
right?
It is. I've had a lot of fun working with our dear Beth on that part, and so I enjoy listening and watching her bring that to life.
Yeah.
For playing, I really enjoy Alone. I love accompanying Christian and his wonderful voice on that song. You definitely need to come hear that. And I don't know, there's a lot to choose from. It's very difficult for me to choose a favorite.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the complexity of the score and the harmonies.
There's definitely lots of harmonies going on. There's 3-part harmonies at the start of the show. We have our birds opening up, and they
Shout out
take
to
it
the
away.
birds.
Shout out to the birds.
That's right.
Tweet, tweet. And there's at times even 6-part harmonies.
Wow.
So everybody has a chance to blend their voices. I know you can hear the audible sigh of, but it's going to be great.
Yeah.
We've been working very hard on it, and I'm very proud of the cast.
Now, Maeve, you play the role of young Frog, and you get a little feature in a song, a whole story sequence called Shivers. Can you tell me a little bit about what happens during Shivers?
Yes, so in Shivers, there is a scary story being told by Frog to Toad. We're having a little nice meeting at, I think it's Frog's house?
it's Frog's
yeah,
house.
Frog's house. And the story is about Frog when he was a little kid, and he's on a picnic with his parents, and the dad, he gets lost. He does not know where to go, and so he starts telling young Frog about this big and terrible frog, and how he's so terrible and really scary. And then the parents leave young Frog to go search for a path, which does not seem right, but it all works out in the end. But the young Frog does run into Large and Terrible Frog, and Large and Terrible Frog does this little tap jump sequence, and it's really funny.
Yeah.
And I'm doing jump rope, and I catch Large and Terrible Frog in an act, and I tie him to a tree, and I ran, and I found my parents, and it all worked out in the end.
Wonderful. Now, what's it like for you as a younger performer working with some of the veterans that have been around and have a lot of shows under their belt and have directed lots of productions? What do you take in from that? I know you're a sponge, Maeve.
I think it's a really awesome experience, and I do really appreciate working with everyone I end up working with. For me, it's not a huge deal just because I do every show I can.
Yeah.
But it is still a really awesome experience that I think is something that everyone should be able to experience.
Sure. Now, I have to give a shout out to the director, and his name is Robert Fitzgerald, am I right? So, Christian, what's it been like working with Robert on this piece?
Oh, he's great. I've been in a prior show with him. We did the One Acts. We were in a short little play called Marietta. But other than that, he's just a great director. He gives good direction.
Yeah.
It's just very easy getting to work with him.
Nice.
I second that.
Yeah.
I third.
There we go. People love him. People love him. One of my favorite moments in the show is a really crazy number about eating cookies. Can you just tell our audience a little bit about the chaos that is cookies?
Well, it's this whole back and forth between Frog and Toad about, eating cookies.
Who doesn't love a cookie?
Who doesn't?
Yeah. And it's just Frog telling Toad, oh, we need to stop. And Toad's like, no, we can keep on eating cookies. And then Frog goes to give it to the birds, and then they start eating the cookies. And it's just this whole ordeal. And that it's a fun time on stage. The harmonies are hard.
They are.
For that song.
They are. For all the songs, but that one's, it's a faster pace, I think, and there's a certain timing, a weird tempo. There's a lot of jazz influence in this production, so getting the timing, the tempo, and just right is a challenge.
Yeah, even knowing when to breathe, specifically in
That
that
too.
song.
Yeah. No breathing allowed.
Yeah.
I love that song because it was my favorite Frog and Toad's childhood story.
Oh,
And
because we're
I-
going back to the books now.
Yes, and I
right?
loved growing up to reading these stories, which was one of the reasons I agreed to take this role, having never worked with this theater before, just the chance to bring one of my favorite children's stories to life was too good an opportunity to miss.
Sure. Now, of course, our Toad isn't here today, Katie Maddox. I'll be talking with her a little bit later. What's your dynamic like on stage, Christian? What's it? How do you two play off of each other? Because Frog and Toad, when I think of them in the books and in the musical, they're an odd pair, but they're very different. But they work together so well, and they support each other in such different ways. How are you and Katie balancing each other?
It's going good. It's my first time working with Katie in, I guess, in a role like this, because I've done shows with her where we like both been in the ensemble, and she's lovely to work with. She's so sweet, and I think we're still like our connection is good, but I think we're still like building it and really getting there.
Yeah.
As like we continue to block out the show and even do numbers together. But overall, like she's incredible. Like getting to hear her like sing more has been it's so good to hear.
Right.
And she's I feel like an underdog at acting out.
This is her time to shine.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it. So just a reminder, this show is running February 17th through the 19th at Acting Out, which is right in Lawrence, and you're not going to want to miss it. Now, stay tuned when I'll be right back with Toad, with the very own Katie Maddox, so stick around. And we're back. I told you we couldn't finish up this interview until we met up with Toad from A Year with Frog and Toad, and and the role of Toad is being played at Acting Out Theater Company by Katie Maddox. Hey, Katie, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad we were able to do this virtually. Now, Katie, you were just telling me that that you're an elementary school teacher, and that some of your students really enjoy these books. And I was wondering, what was your experience with the Frog and Toad books before you got in the musical?
Yeah, I had them read to me when I was like 3 or 4 by my dad. And then more recently, I've been seeing them a lot. I work primarily with kids who speak English as a second language. So reading can be very intimidating, and they like Frog and Toad because it's simple. They like the stories. They're
Yeah,
easy.
it must be a the stories are just so lovely. It must be a really great introduction for someone who's really struggling and trying to read for the first time, and it has a great payoff because the stories are so awesome. Do you have a favorite story in particular?
My favorite when I was a kid was the cookies one, where they can't stop eating the cookies, then they decide to just give them to the birds.
So, I was told that you've been involved with other shows at Acting Out prior to this one. Tell me about some of the other experiences you've had and what keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah, my first show was Urinetown, which we started in 2020. It didn't go up till 2021, but I just really liked the environment there. I feel like I met a lot of people and started making friends really quickly. I feel like it felt less exclusive than like some of the other community theaters I had done stuff at. And so I just kept coming back. I've done their drag shows. We've done 3. We're working on the 4th.
Awesome. That's one of the cool things. I look at all the programming happening at Acting Out, and it's just everything. There's stuff for kids, there's stuff for adults, there's musicals, there's plays, and there's even opportunities to write. Didn't you write an original play at one point?
Yes, I wrote a play called Champagne Toast for the One Act Festival in 2021.
Terrific. So let's talk about A Year with Frog and Toad a little bit more. Had you ever seen the musical before you auditioned for it?
I had never seen the musical. I had heard it like mentioned a couple times. Like I knew there was a Frog and Toad musical, but I hadn't listened to it. I hadn't seen it.
And now that you're in the midst of it, what is the vibe of the musical and what's the experience been like?
It's very family friendly, but it doesn't come off like super childlike. It doesn't talk down. There's a lot of like big words that I wouldn't usually see in a show written for kids. Like there's songs that say like magnanimous. it's kind of written for everyone.
I love that. And you get some really awesome songs. You get some duets with Frog and yourself, and maybe some solos along the way. Well, you're telling me that one of your favorite numbers is the sledding number. What happens during that scene?
Yeah, so that one, it begins kind of pleasantly. Toad's a little scared at first, but he's like, "Oh, this is nice." And then Frog gets thrown from the sled, and when Toad realizes, he immediately just thinks he's gonna die.
Wow. He's a little overdramatic, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And one of my other favorite scenes is Get a Load of Toad. Can you tell everybody a little taste of what happens in that crazy scene?
Yeah, in that scene, Toad thinks that he looks funny in a bathing suit, so he tries to get Frog to tell the other animals to go away, but they won't, so they just kind of wait around for him to get out.
Yep. It all goes
Does
horribly wrong.
It's also the catchiest song.
It is such a bop, absolutely. Well, I just wanted to wish you and the rest of the cast that the performances are awesome, so break legs all around. And I'm so glad you could join me here on Arts for the Masses, Katie.
All right, thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you.
My pleasure. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. If you're a nonprofit theater group, music group, dance group, it doesn't matter what you are. If you are making art in Massachusetts and you'd like to be on the show, please be in touch. I'd love to help you out. Take care.